You hear buzzing nearby. You smell dust everywhere. A hidden danger waits patiently beneath the dry grass ahead of you. One careless step could trigger venom, injury, infection, or death. Your mouth feels dry. Your stomach feels empty. The landscape appears generous until survival demands knowledge your modern life never required. Could you last 1 week? Your phone is gone. Your wallet is useless. Every familiar system suddenly disappears beneath an unforgiving layer of biological reality. In modern cities, food arrives through supply chains spanning thousands of kilometers. Water appears from taps. Laws protect property. Stores reduce uncertainty. Yet the moment those systems vanish, a disturbing truth begins emerging. What if survival was never simple? Many people imagine success. Many people imagine freedom. Television often presents wilderness survival as a test of courage alone. The assumption sounds reasonable. The assumption feels intuitive. If your ancestors survived harsh environments for hundreds of thousands of years, then your modern body should manage the same challenge today. That conclusion sounds logical. It is also wrong. Why? The Hadza of Tanzania are frequently described as one of the world's last hunter-gatherer populations. Their lives offer valuable insights into human evolutionary history. Yet the first surprise is not their toughness. The first surprise is their expertise. Anthropologists use a term called ecological knowledge. In simple language, it means understanding exactly how a landscape works, which plants provide calories, which roots contain toxins, which animal tracks are fresh, which water sources remain reliable during drought. Could you answer those questions tomorrow morning? Researchers such as Frank Marlowe documented how Hadza survival depends upon knowledge accumulated across entire lifetimes. Children learn constantly. Adults continue learning. Elders preserve information gathered through decades of experience. Survival therefore functions less like a wilderness adventure and more like participation in a living library. Remove that library and the system weakens immediately. Remove yourself from it and the challenge becomes enormous. Does physical fitness solve that problem? Many modern people believe so. Many fitness influencers suggest so. The image of survival often centers on strength, endurance, and determination. Those qualities certainly matter. They are not enough. Herman Pontzer's research on Hadza populations revealed a fascinating paradox about human energy use. The average person imagines constant movement automatically creates unlimited survival advantages. Human biology tells a different story. Your body carefully manages energy. Your body constantly negotiates trade-offs. More movement does not automatically create more food. More effort does not automatically create more success. Could relentless effort become a trap? Imagine waking before sunrise. Imagine searching for breakfast. No grocery store exists. No refrigerator exists. No delivery application exists. Every calorie must be located, identified, acquired, and processed. A berry that resembles food may create illness. A promising route may provide almost no energy. Hours of effort can end with very little reward. Hunter-gatherers understand this uncertainty deeply. Modern people rarely experience it. How long before confidence begins collapsing? The paradox grows larger. Intelligence alone cannot save you. Modern education rarely teaches seasonal plant cycles, animal behavior patterns, or hidden water locations. A university degree may carry tremendous value inside industrial civilization. It offers little assistance when tracking a wounded animal across difficult terrain. The challenge is not intelligence versus ignorance. The challenge is specialized knowledge versus missing knowledge. That distinction changes everything. Can you see the difference? Research by Alyssa Crittenden highlights another overlooked reality. Food acquisition is rarely an individual achievement. Honey, one of the Hadza's most valuable energy sources, often requires cooperation, experience, and environmental awareness. Success emerges through relationships. Information flows through communities. Resources circulate through sharing networks. The popular image of a lone survivor conquering nature therefore misses something fundamental about human evolution. Humans survived together. Humans learned together. Humans adapted together. What happens when those connections disappear? That question becomes even more important when examining a typical day within a Hadza community. The landscape may appear simple to an outsider. It is anything but simple. Every tree contains information. Every footprint contains information. Every sound contains information. Knowledge transforms uncertainty into opportunity. Without that knowledge, the same environment becomes confusing, exhausting, and dangerous. The difference between survival and failure often begins with details invisible to inexperienced eyes. And that is where the real story starts. The deeper lesson emerges now. The deeper lesson becomes darker. Archaeological evidence from East Africa reveals landscapes that shaped human survival across immense stretches of time. Sites such as Oldoway Gorge and Litoli demonstrate that adaptation was never a single event. It was a process. It was relentless. Generation after generation accumulated solutions to problems capable of killing the unprepared. Could any individual recreate that inheritance alone? Consider a severe drought. Consider a failed hunt. Neither event sounds extraordinary until repeated failure begins compounding across days and weeks. Food reserves disappear quickly. Physical performance declines steadily. Decision-making deteriorates under mounting stress. A person weakened by hunger becomes less effective at finding future calories. The cycle feeds itself. The cycle accelerates. Survival can unravel surprisingly fast. Why does that matter? Because popular survival fantasies often ignore mortality. Ancient life was remarkable. Ancient life was dangerous. Evolution did not produce guaranteed success for every human born into challenging environments. Many individuals died young. Many families endured hardship. Many groups faced environmental pressures beyond their control. The goal was never perfection. The goal was persistence. Communities survived because knowledge, cooperation, and flexibility reduced risk. Without those protections, the odds changed dramatically. Would confidence remain strong after several hungry days? Research from hunter-gatherer populations repeatedly shows that food sharing acts as a form of insurance. One successful day can support many people. One unsuccessful day becomes less catastrophic when resources circulate through social networks. Modern societies still depend upon similar principles. The mechanisms simply appear different. Insurance companies exist. Supply chains exist. Emergency services exist. Complex institutions absorb risk before individuals fully notice it. Hunter-gatherers developed their own versions long before modern governments emerged. Does that sound primitive? It should sound sophisticated. It should sound familiar. Human survival has always depended upon systems larger than any single person. The tools changed. The principle remained. Yet modern culture often celebrates self-sufficiency as the highest form of strength. The image feels attractive. The image feels empowering. Evolutionary history suggests something more complicated. Your species became successful through cooperation at extraordinary scales. Remove that advantage and weaknesses quickly become visible. Is independence always strength? The answer carries an uncomfortable implication. The greatest survival technology was never a spear. It was never fire. It was never a shelter built from branches. The greatest survival technology was shared knowledge. Information moved across generations. Experience accumulated through time. Mistakes became lessons. Lessons became traditions. Traditions became survival strategies. A child inherited thousands of invisible instructions about living successfully within a specific environment. Could a modern person download that knowledge overnight? Almost certainly not. That limitation matters enormously. Your brain remains biologically capable of learning many of those skills. Your body remains broadly similar to humans who mastered them. The obstacle is time. The obstacle is experience. The obstacle is the missing cultural infrastructure surrounding everyday survival. Modern life outsourced countless responsibilities to specialized systems. That trade created incredible advantages. It also created distance from ecological realities your ancestors understood intimately. Is that progress or vulnerability? The honest answer is both. Modern civilization reduced many dangers. Modern civilization introduced new dependencies. You rarely worry about finding wild honey. You rarely worry about identifying edible tubers. Yet power outages, supply disruptions, and environmental crises occasionally reveal how much daily stability depends upon invisible networks operating behind the scenes. The lesson is not that hunter-gatherer life was superior. The lesson is not that modern life is fragile beyond repair. The lesson is that survival has always been collective. Does that perspective change the story? By now, the original question looks different. The challenge was never whether you could run faster, fight harder, or endure more discomfort. The challenge was whether you possessed the accumulated knowledge required to transform a landscape into a home. The Hadza demonstrate what that knowledge can accomplish. Their expertise reflects generations of observation, adaptation, memory, and cooperation. What appears simple from a distance often represents extraordinary mastery up close. You hear buzzing nearby. You smell dust everywhere. At the beginning, those sensations signal danger hiding within an unfamiliar landscape. At the end, they reveal something deeper. The greatest threat was never the landscape itself. The greatest threat was entering it without the knowledge that gives meaning to every sound, every track, every plant, and every choice. Survival was never about standing alone against nature. Survival was about belonging to a system capable of teaching you how to see it.